Hello together to our next part of this series. We are in part number 5 and we are talking about phase number 4. You know, the phase number 4 is the measure service. Our ministry is growing and becomes more and more spiritually and worthy and holy. The blessings are growing, not because we come better in programs and in all of that. It's good when our quality is growing, our knowledge, our experience. This is not the problem, but we must grow spiritually. Christ must become our life. And we must realize that it's not going without problems. Now, many people, they have a problem with problems. We try to come into better circumstances when we are in crisis, when we are in trouble, and this is normal. But here we must realize one point. It's said in Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And having been perfected, he became the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him. So you see, Christ became perfected by sufferings. And don't believe that you can become perfect in sanctification without the right perspective on sufferings. When we are not measured, we think we are suffering because we have sinned, and that's possible. We bring ourselves in troubles. We can make a small crisis even bigger when we behave wrong and when we don't trust in God and obey what He's doing. But we must realize Christ became perfected by sufferings. And this doesn't mean that he was a sinner before of that. But you know, the point is, we are growing from sin to perfection. Christ was never doing one sin, but his perfection became deeper. You know, it's one point to serve God when the sun is shining and everybody likes you. It's a totally different situation when the people are hunting you, when they hate you, when they want to kill you because of your faith. Then it's much harder to follow Jesus. And the light is shining much more in the darkness. Look on Paul. He was praising the Lord in prison after he was beaten together with Silas. Here, the light is shining much more. You can praise God in a church service, but that's not the same brightness. The light is shining much more in this suffering. And the question is, how do we behave in our problems? How do we behave in our crisis? How do we behave in our challenges or temptations? We must grow spiritually, because when we are not growing here, our ministry cannot grow. We are failing again and again, and this is destroying our ministry. Look back to this wheel. When the axle is not in the center, when the spokes are not really fast, then we will make an accident. And that's what I did. I had already a ministry, I was already preaching, and then I made an accident with a car. I had no driving license. I was 17 years old and I crashed into a bike and I hurt a young man so terrible that he was going through different operations. You see, my ministry was bigger than my character. My ministry was bigger than my obedience to God. My ministry was bigger than my ethic. My ministry was bigger than my love to God's law. And here we are in danger. And when we are making ministries and are falling in sin, we only are a big shame for God. And this is happening in the whole world. You can see how many leaders, pastors are falling in sin. And then all the people say, look on the Christians. The newspapers are full with that. So we must be very careful. God is strongly interested to continue his work of sanctification in us before we make big ministries. So in this phase, number 4, we come to the point that we must do something. We need changes. Before of that, we run away from conflicts. We are not willing to deal with conflicts. We are not willing to care about problems. We only want to have good ministries. But then we realize we must have a yes to our problems. We cannot hide them. We cannot run away from them. We cannot become a person who is a liar, a betrayer, a cheater, a hypocrite. We must accept that Jesus Christ wants to go deeper. We need victory of sin. So what we were talking about in the last part of our series, what does it mean to be crucified with Christ? This must become our focus, to live crucified, to go through our temptations and difficulties in the new power of Jesus Christ. And then we can see that God can use the troubles we have for big blessings, because then we can become a light in our problems. And we can help others to be a light in their problems. But it's only possible when we understand that we are crucified with Christ and Christ lives in us, and when we abide in him. This is the aim of this 4th phase, that we abide in Jesus Christ. Heartily welcome to the next phase.